Right after I graduated high school, I went to my community college where my best friend at the time and her boyfriend also attended, along with a lot of their friends who I became acquainted with as well. Fast forward to Halloween of 2010. I went with my best friend and her boyfriend to take her little brother and sister trick-or-treating. We were towards the end of the route when one of their friends from college ended up joining us as well. I didn't think anything of it at the time, other than he gave me weird vibes. Should have been my first clue. After we were done trick-or-treating, we brought the kids home to go to bed, but my friends wanted to go do something to keep the night going. You know, since it was Halloween, and in a college town, that's an excuse to party, just like any other day. They decided on going downtown, but I declined since I wasn't feeling well, which was true, but I was also the only one with a car and didn't want to be the chauffeur, so I went home. A few hours later, I was in bed reading a book, and my phone lit up from a number I didn't recognize. It was a friend that joined us while trick-or-treating. He explained that he got my number from my best friend's boyfriend, and he was concerned that I didn't feel well, so he insisted on bringing me soup to feel better. Some sort of red flag went off in my head, and I didn't want this guy to know where I lived, so I said no, my mom was taking care of it, but thank you anyway. He got a little pushy, but eventually backed down and proceeded to send me many texts about how much fun he had when we were out and blah blah blah. I later found out that he bailed on going downtown too because he only wanted to go with me. He then added me on Facebook, went through all of my pictures, and liked all of them. Second red flag. Being the naive 18-year-old I was, I just thought maybe he was being overly friendly and was just a little weird, so I didn't avoid him at school or anything since we hung out with the same people. One day, when we didn't have school, he texted me asking me if I wanted to go to lunch. I should have said no, but I accepted thinking I was getting a free meal out of the deal since he insisted on paying and it would be a quick visit. We met at the restaurant, sat down, talked, and ate. It was super awkward, and then I stupidly mentioned I wanted to go to the mall to get some stuff. He insisted on driving me there and said that his mom can move to the back seat. Wait, what? Apparently, he drove his mom's minivan, brought her with him, and left her in the car while we were on our date. I kept saying that she should come in and join us, and he got really weird about it and said that she was napping and she didn't mind waiting. At that point, I started getting very uncomfortable. Luckily, we were done with our food and I said I needed to leave, thanked him for the food, and got up to go. He kept saying he'll meet me at the mall, and I was put in what felt like a weird position. I am not an assertive person, so I reluctantly said, okay. We meet at a large store connected to the mall, and I mentioned how I was there to look for a new scarf and started browsing. He picked out the most expensive one he could find, bought it for me, and almost threatened me not to return it. It was then that I wanted to be left alone, so I said thank you and I was going to go home now. He insisted on walking me to my car. We were parked on opposite ends of the mall, and his mom was still in the van, so I kept saying I was okay, I was fine. He was a big guy, and even simple walking caused him to break out into a sweat, but he wouldn't take no for an answer, so away we went. We passed by another store and took a quick peek inside. There were a pair of boots that I very quickly in passing mentioned were cute, but I didn't know if I'd wear them. He bought them for me and did the same somewhat threat not to return them, because they were gifts, and you don't return gifts. Like, dude, then what are gift receipts for? At that point, I got a little firm and told him I wanted time alone, so I asked him to please not walk me out to my car. He accepted and went on his merry way, clearly happy he had made those purchases to show me he liked me. I go out to my car and wait for about 20 minutes. I knew what his van looked like at this point and kept my eye out for it in case he was going to follow me home, but didn't see anything. I actually ended up going back to the mall and returned the boots and scarf. In reality, I didn't want either of them, and I was way too uncomfortable accepting those gifts from a strange person. I don't like owing people, and I had a weird feeling he was going to use that as some kind of leverage to get something from me. I took the long way home to make sure I wasn't being followed and told my mom about what happened. She was concerned and thought it was strange as well, since he and I didn't really know each other and it seemed like a weird act of desperation. I got a text from him a few hours later saying he hoped I liked his gifts. I responded saying that I returned them because I wasn't comfortable with it, and he lost it. My phone kept lighting up with tons of texts. This was before it was easy to block someone and I didn't know how. Ah, the old flip phone. He was livid that I did such a disrespectful thing. I should be thankful he got me those things. So I got angry and told him I didn't ask him for the gifts. He basically threatened me to keep them, and he didn't take no for an answer when I told him I didn't want them, so essentially, he was the one who disrespected me. He backed down a lot then. I told him to stop texting me and leave me alone. I got a few more texts, but eventually he stopped. It was weird at school because I kind of avoided being around my friends when I knew he was there. I still hung out with some of them alone, like my best friend, but when I knew a friend gathering was going on, I wouldn't go. They understood. Now this is where I got stupid. I'm a very compassionate person, and 9 times out of 10 feel horrible when I was mean to someone, even in this instance. I ended up texting the creeper one night apologizing for how rude I was to him, and he said he understood where I was coming from, and we had a normal conversation for a little bit until I fell asleep at around 11 p.m. I know this because I woke up at 2 a.m., looked at my phone, and saw the last text I sent him was a little before 11 stating I was tired. After I fell asleep, he sent me one text, saw I didn't respond, texted again, saw I didn't respond, kept texting. We're talking on the verge of 30 to 40 texts here. He then called me from his cell phone about 10 times, called from another number about 15 times because he thought I was ignoring him, and then he sent one last threatening message. If you don't respond within a half hour, I'm going to call the police. I happened to wake up at 2 a.m., which was an hour after he sent that text, and flipped the fuck out, telling him I fell asleep and he better not have called the police. You want to know why he called the police? Because he interpreted me saying I was tired as I was tired of living. He thought I killed myself. Never mind that it was, basically bedtime when he and I were talking, so yes, me killing myself is the most logical route to take here. I ran into my mom's room, told her what was happening, and she goes, "For crying out loud, they have better things to do with their time. They aren't coming to check on you." I go back into my room, which looked out into our driveway, look out the window, see a cop car parked on the street, and see 2 flashlights walking up the driveway. They knock on the door, I opened it, and I'm pretty sure the look on my face told them everything. "You Sally?" "Yep." "You know why we're here?" "Yep." "So what happened?" "I fell asleep." The police understood and actually called the creep back and told him to leave me the fuck alone, just as I was texting him to leave me the fuck alone. He then had the gall to ask for my address again to come over and apologize to me and told me that he loved me. I told him he doesn't even know me and has absolutely no reason to be in love with me. His reasoning was that's how he worked. He fell in love first and then decided if it was the right person. Dude was a loony. This put a lot of strain on my friendships at college. His story was much more twisted and painted me as the bad guy, and I ended up making a lot of enemies, even with my best friend because he labeled me as a whore even though I was still a virgin. There was another guy interested in me as well among those friends, but he was much less assertive, and I didn't even give him the time of day. I had to drop out of school because that circle of friends was so big, and whenever that creep saw me, he would get so irrationally angry that his friends had to physically hold him back, which was a lot of people because he was massive. I since cut contact with all of them, ended up going to a different school that I love so much more, and I am in a much better place without them in my life. So, creep from school, I hope I never have to see you again. Thanks so much for watching. If you have a true scary story that you would like featured in one of our future videos, send us an email at themidnightfoxofficial@gmail.com. Our contact information will be in the description below. If you like this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on notifications to make sure that you don't miss out when we post new content.